This one is called Prospecting and the Importance of a KYC, or how Workplace Solutions likes to call the discovery. Okay, that's how we call it here. And there are learning objectives. The learning objective for this webinar is to understand the value through a proper KYC when prospecting. Understand what a good process looks like. So we're going to talk about questions and things like that, and how to use the IDC WIN Workplace Solutions discovery tool effectively. Now, if you've been through to one of my webinars before, if you joined us in the spring, you know that my analogies take the tone of a Netflix series. Many of you sitting there laughing. If you've dealt with me before, you know that I am a huge binge watcher of everything on television. And so my analogies are a Netflix show. You do not want to come in season 3, episode 2 of your Netflix series when you're working in the group insurance space. There is a method behind the madness. There are questions and concerns that we want to make sure you're addressing. And there are reasons why we ask questions. So as we go through, you're going to see me do that analogy, and you're going to see why. And it's going to start in this series and each series that we're going to do on Mondays, right? So you're going to be with me for the next 4 weeks. And I hope you get out of it everything that we want. And if you have any questions or something comes up during the week after you've listened to this, again, please do feel free to reach out. So why does a KYC matter? It matters because innovation technology is expanding the solutions available to address client needs, right? It's no longer just paper forms. It's no longer just traditional benefits. So we need to address all of those needs. The market has become very complex. Not scary complex, but complex in terms of what the workforce looks like, what client objectives are, wanting to put in the right benefit program. And so we're here to help you every step of the way. So the key thing here that I would want you to get out of this is professional group benefit advisors must fully understand client strategic objectives in order to provide the right advice. There isn't, I've said this, if you've been on a prospect meeting with me, if you have been to a renewal meeting with me, you will know there is not one renewal report that we do. There isn't one marketing proposal that we do that is exactly the same. Everybody has different needs. Every advisor has different needs. Every client has different needs, and their objectives are different. So we need to make sure that we're creating something, working with you, and making sure your client is getting the right advice with the right product. It's one thing to be able to put in a benefit program. It's another to put in the right benefit program. And those are two completely different things. So we want to make sure that you understand that. And again, we're here to help support you in any planning or any advice that you might need. Again, why does the KYC matter? It's know your client, provide the right advice, and articulate why solutions align with your client needs, and then build trust in your advice and buy-in for new solutions. So, and what does that do to you or for you, the advisor? It solidifies your relationship with all stakeholders. It solidifies your relationship with us. It solidifies your relationship with the carrier that you're putting the group with. It solidifies your relationship with your employer or your prospect and all of the employees within that population. It puts a hold on your competition, right? The competition in the group space is vast. So we want to make sure that you're holding on to that competition, or hold off on that competition, and also grow your premium. If you've been with me before on one of our webinars, you'll also know that one of the best ways of prospecting is through a group benefits program. If you put in a program for a group of 5, a group of 10, a group of 15, whatever it is, you now have the ability of going in and making those employees your individual clients. I know most of you online right now don't only do group insurance, but you're also doing individual, you're doing estate planning, you're doing wealth management. You now have a vehicle to go in and make those clients your own. So putting in a group benefit plan is one way of maximizing your potential and grow your premium and your business. This is what what an example of one of our discovery documents looks like. We have them, so if you wanted to utilize it, we're happy to send that off to you as a means of providing you with questions and things like that. But there are 5 main categories when we're talking about a discovery, what you should be talking to your clients about to establish your credibility, your reputation, and to put in something that's really sustainable. So the five key areas are employer needs and objectives, employee considerations, plan administration, plan communications, and insurance and underwriting. And next week's session, when you're with me, we're going to get into why you need to ask certain questions or obtain certain pieces of information. That's where our Netflix series starts, right? We want to know who the cast of characters are. We want to know what's going on in that story. We want to know who the employees are. If there's anything going on within their population that you need to know about, that we need to know about. So asking some of these questions is going to get you there and into that next session next Monday. So you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what type of questions could she be wanting me to know? Well, one of them is, what business objectives must the benefit program support, and what is your client trying to achieve? That should be your first question. It's one thing, again, to put in a benefit plan. It's another to put in the right benefit plan. So you want to know why there's a benefit plan even being considered. Is it parentalism? Is it total rewards? Is it building employee engagement, modernized culture? Or is there something else going on in the firm that you need to know about? One of the questions I always ask is, are you looking to add this as a total rewards or attraction and retention of employees? Are you trying to be more engaging? Is your workforce so diverse that you need to make sure that your executives are taken care of, your single, 29-year-olds are taken care of, your newly married employees, are they being taken care of? And those needs are all different. So we want to make sure that you're putting in the benefit plan that meets those objectives. Are you looking at modernizing culture? Everybody now, or a lot of people, are still working from home. Maybe they're not coming into the office. Do you need to do more in terms of health and wellness to make your employees more engaged, or their employees more engaged? So those are some of the questions or topics that you're going to want to bring to your prospects. Employee diversity and demographic mix. So some questions that you want to ask or you want to know about, and you don't have to ask them all, but some of these are really important. So what is the age spread of your company? This question is important if we're putting in a different type of benefit program. Maybe we're working in a flex space as opposed to just traditional. Some other benefits that you want to ask or questions that you want to ask is, do you think that your current benefit spend is providing equitable value for all your employees? There's equitable access and there's equitable utility. And those are two different things. Is your benefit plan just representing the needs of 2 or 3 people in the firm, as opposed to the utility and making sure your all employees' needs are being taken into consideration? That's a huge question. What percentage of your employees get at least as much financial value from your plan as you contribute? So that's if you are working with a company right now that currently has a benefit program. We want to know about the spend. We want to know, are the premium paid versus the claims being paid out? Is there a big dichotomy above that? On the flip side, we want to know if the claims being paid out is more than the premium and why. So we're going to get into that when we start evaluating in the next sessions that we do. So those are some questions that you want to ask about your demographic change. Do you have a lot of family content? So is the owner related to the executive assistant, to the warehouse person? We're going to want to know some of that information. Are you looking just to make sure the family needs are taken care of, or all of the employee needs taken care of? That would be important to know. Budget and cost stability. So you want to find out when you're talking to your client, if they currently have benefits, you're going to want to know what is your experience with annual renewals? Have your rates been going up year after year? Or is the cost okay, but the service not so great? So we want to know those things. Is the objective of putting in a plan to keep rates stable throughout the years, or are you okay with it going up or down depending on the times of the year, the type of plan design that we might be wanting to put through? What is your appetite for increases or different types of adversity when it comes to those renewals? Or a virgin group who's never had plan before. Maybe we need to look at putting it into a pooled program, or ask carriers for rate caps year after year if we need to do that. So that's something that you're going to want to know. Another question, which is becoming very popular, because as you know, and if you've been with me through other seminars, or if you've joined us for our symposiums or some of our university day presentations, you will know that we don't just work in the traditional benefit space. We work in the hybrid model space, where we keep catastrophic care intact and couple with a healthcare spending account. We work in the flex space as well, down to 3 people, or the modified flex space, where we keep traditional, but we allow the employees to have some flexibility for themselves. That's going to be important. And those are questions that you want to ask, because you want to make sure that, again, you're putting in a plan that meets the objectives and a plan that meets the client need, and a sustainable plan. So you're going to want to ask questions like, if some employees had to lose a small amount of coverage in order to implement a flexible plan that provides you with more cost certainty, how do you view that? How do you view flexible spending accounts where things like gym memberships can be written off? Is there an appetite for that? Now, you might be sitting there going, oh, I wouldn't even know how to have these conversations with a prospect. I don't even know, how to communicate this type of thing. Well, don't fear, because our team is here to support you. So if you're looking at putting in this type of a plan, or you want us to come to a prospect meeting with you, both Candy and myself, we're more than happy to do that. That's why we created our business models the way we did, so that we can work with you to put in the proper plan, to put in a stable plan, to let you get back to doing what you do, and maybe getting some of those employees to become your individual clients as well. But we're here to help with these concepts. So we don't want you to fear that you might not have the time to donate to all of that. You don't need it. We're here to help support you. So those are some of the questions that you want to ask when you're talking about budget and cost stability. Employee considerations. So one of the things that I always ask when I'm doing a prospect meeting with one of our advisors are, have you taken the time to survey your employees? Do they know? Has there been any feedback? Has your employees come to you with any products or ideas or concepts that they would like to see in a benefit program? That's one of the ways of engaging your prospect to engage their employees. So we can help craft surveys. They may have that information at their fingertips. They might be saying to you, listen, we've got a young firm and they're asking if gym memberships could be paid, could be written off, or they're looking for a mental health solution to be added in. Those are things that are really important. Your employer should be reaching out to their employees to get their feedback as well. So some of the things that you want to ask are, have you received any feedback? Have you surveyed your employees? Are you aware of any employee circumstances that in elements of a group benefits or group savings plan could resolve or support. That's really important. A lot of employees are asking for group savings plans. That's something that we also do, and we can also help you with. And also, do you need to segment some of your employees into various classes so that you can take the spend, your budget, make it last longer with the employees, but tier those employees based on need or classes of how they work. So those are something that's really, really important when you're doing a discovery with your employer. Employee feedback. Now, you may very well, and it happens more often than not, you may very well run into the employer that said, listen, I know I have to have a benefit program. My employees are asking for it. Competition in my sector is steep. I know I have to have something, but I really just want something quick and easy because I don't have a big budget, but I know I have to retain my current employees. I know I have to have an attract new employees. That might be a very easy. We might just do a simplified underwriting program that's easy to implement, that's maybe a pooled program that has different levels of insurance that the employer can choose from. That might be exactly what they need. And again, that's something that we can help you with. So again, asking these questions are really important because it increases your credibility. It also helps us on our end put the proper benefit plan in place, to reach out, to make sure that we're listening to what you came to us with. We've read the discovery, we know where we have to go, and we put in a plan for you. That's exactly what the client is asking for. Plan administration. Okay, so this is really important too, because you want to make sure that you're communicating effectively with your employer and the employees. You want to be able to have a smooth plan administration, which is a key driver in satisfaction of employers and plan members, right? English might not be their first language. We might not be able to do an employee meeting, so maybe we need to do a few slides that do a high-level overview of the plan. Maybe some of the workforce is out in vehicles all day, and we need, maybe the digitalized insurance company is not where you want to be because those employees don't have time to be able to call in or set themselves up digitally. Maybe we do need to work with an insurance company that's doing everything paper because that's more effective. So we want to make sure that the administration of the plan is being maintained. The biggest thing that I would say for anybody, any advisor, is to make sure that we set up plan administration training with the carrier of choice. It's one thing to do an employee meeting. It's one thing to make sure that we're, being effective in our communication. But you should always have a member of the company be the plan administrator who knows how to get online, add employees, delete employees, pull down drug cards, because we are moving in an age where everything is digitalized. It's very rare that we have an insurance company who is still producing drug cards. And that is gone are those days where an advisor could walk in, hand everybody their kit, their benefit kit that had a booklet that had a drug card. We're done with that. Now it's make sure you download your app, make sure the plan administrator is downloading those drug cards and making sure that the employees have it. And if you've got a group of 15, 20, 30 or more, that can be really time consuming. So we want to make sure that one of the questions that you're asking is, do you have a designated plan administrator? Are they tech savvy enough that they could go online and be able to do some of those everyday things that is going to make for a great client experience and a great employee experience? Of course, we can help you with that. That is one of the key objectives and the key things that you want to be able to delegate and communicate. So if you currently have a plan, are there any administrative issues that we should be aware of? What is the client's capacity and tolerance for administrative complexities? We want to make sure that we're getting the right person doing the right job and effectively communicating. What are the technology capabilities of the plan administrator and the plan member? If English isn't their first language, if they don't have access to computers or mobile phones to download apps, well, great, we may have gone with a carrier that provided, amazing rates, but it might not be the best carrier to go with because of some of their digitalization that might not meet the needs of those employees. So want to make sure you're asking those questions. What requirements do you have for billing divisions? You might be working with a company that has 5, 6, 7 different divisions. They're housed under one benefit plan with an umbrella, but you might need to make sure that each division is being set up properly. Maybe they have their own banking information. You want to be able to ask those questions and make sure that the actual day-to-day administration of the plan is being done properly and effectively. Because the last thing you want is that falling on your head, and you might not have the time or capacity to be able to navigate through that. I'm going to take a quick second here because I see that there's some questions. So let me just get in there. We will tell you where to find those presentations at the end of the seminar. So let's just move on with that. So again, plan communications. This is the difference between an amazing client experience, an amazing advisor experience, an amazing employee experience, as well as an amazing carrier experience. You'll hear me talking about stakeholders. There's typically 5 stakeholders when it comes to implementing a benefit program. And it doesn't matter if the plan has 2 people or if it has 5,000 people, okay? The stakeholders are still the same. The first stakeholder is you, the advisor. The second stakeholder is your employer. The third stakeholder is the employees of the plan. The fourth one is the carrier that you happen to be working with. And the fifth one is our IDC WIN team. Those 5 stakeholders play an active role at some time throughout the process of implementing, working on, and sustaining a benefit plan. You, the advisor, are always going to have your hand in it. Your employer is the one that's going to hear the feedback from the employees. They're also the decision maker when it comes to budget, which carrier to go through, and if there's going to be a program being implemented. Your employees are your biggest stakeholders because they're the ones that are making claims. They're the ones whose needs are being taken care of. Those are the ones that have the most impact from the proper benefit program. Your carrier that you've chosen to go with is also going to play a huge role. That's going to be on customer service issues, getting claims paid, adjudicating claims, understanding the plan, working with you and the plan administrator for ease and stability throughout that year. And then, of course, your last stakeholder, which is our team. So we're going to need to know how much time and effort is going to go into this. Do we need to do an employee meeting? When the renewal comes in and we're working on it, is there something that we need to communicate to you? Did something go on in the plan that we need to be aware of? We need to make sure that everybody's, the stakeholders are being looked at, that they're being evaluated, and that it's going to make for an easy implementation, easy navigation, and a long-term working relationship. So plan communication is key, plays a significant role in the member's perception of the benefit plan, maximizes the plan's value to employers and employees. Advisors have a great opportunity to help and unlock value. This is your opportunity to get in there, talk about the plan, talk about life insurance, why you need to make sure that everybody's put down a proper beneficiary on their enrollment form, what the consequences of not putting in a beneficiary on their enrollment form is, an opportunity to unlock your value as whether you're a P&C advisor and doing home and auto, whether you're a life insurance advisor and going in and trying to sell individual insurances on top of, it is your opportunity to unlock the value there as well. That is going to navigate you, if we're talking about our Netflix series, whether or not you're going to get into season 4 of that, based on your communication, your initiatives, utilizing our services if you need to. That's how that's going to play a role for you. What is your mode? You're going to want to ask your plan administrator, your employer, your prospect, what is your mode of HR communications with your team? Do they do monthly meetings? Do they do web meetings? Do they only communicate via emails? How often do you communicate? You know, maybe they have a monthly town hall meeting. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to go in, you know, once a year, twice a year, and do a high-level overview of their benefits. Or maybe it's in November, at the end of November, before holiday season, where you go in and talk about the travel portion of the plan because people are taking vacation. Maybe it's another time where you make sure your older employees who may still have dependents on the plan who are going to university, make sure that they upload the proper documents and ensure that those students are still being covered under the plan. Those are ways to get in and communicate with your employer. And so asking these questions in a discovery is going to help your credibility and make sure that you're communicating effectively. To solidify or to solicit feedback from employees, do you want to do surveys? Do you have staff meetings? Do you have casual feedback? Do you do employee review meetings? Do you want those touch points? How can we help you make those touch points? Something that you're going to want to ask. Any literacy or language factors that should be taken into consideration. Are a lot of these, like I said before, do a lot of these employees work in a warehouse? Are they on the road and traveling? Do they have shift work hours? Is English their first language? You want to know all of that because you're going to have to plan accordingly and work with a carrier that's going to meet those needs. And so it's one thing, again, to put in a benefit plan. It's another to put in a proper benefit plan and to communicate that with your employer, prospect, and their employees. There is a question here. Let me just tap on. So somebody asked here, is there a sample survey form? We don't have a sample survey. We can help you create one. We've done surveys before that are just general. And there's a difference between doing a survey for a group who does not have coverage and a group who currently has coverage. And you want to be careful about how you're doing those surveys. If the employer is trying to change their benefit plan or change the concepts behind it, then you want to create a survey that is addressing that and write it in a certain way that's going to address those needs. They're not hard to do. I would encourage you to reach out to myself or Candy, depending on where you're located. We can help with those if you want, but there is not one survey that's kind of universal. It depends on the objective. It depends on who's doing it. It depends on what the employer wants to find out. So yes, we can do them, but they're not typical. They're not traditional is really what I want to say. They're more catered to the particular need of your prospect. But again, we can help you with. I'm not sure. We have an advisor who does an amazing job of doing surveys. I'm not sure if he's on the line currently, but there are advisors who have created surveys that, in fact, I would like to use myself for some of our other clients because they're just very well done in the space. And so again, we can help with that. Now, this is going to be important for you to understand. When we are working on a group, whether it's a virgin group, that's a group who's never had benefits before, or whether you're working on a group who currently has coverage and you're trying to get them as a client. There are 4 areas of consideration that you are going to have to pay attention to. If you're utilizing our services, well, then we can help you navigate, because we're probably on 1 or 2 of those business models that we have. We come to the prospect meetings with you, so we know what questions to ask. But if you're doing this on your own, there's 4 areas that you're going to want to take into consideration, and we're going to do a deep dive of them next Monday when we talk about the underwriting and request to quote webinar that's coming up, and because that's the next one in line. The 4 areas are demographic risk, and the second one is administration risk, plan design risk, claims risk. So when you are working on a group, and if you had joined me, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when I did the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of a proper benefits administration or implementing a plan and what you need to know, this is where that came into play. So I'm just going to go and do a very high level overview. Firstly, when you're putting in a group benefits plan, the employer needs to understand that most of these plans are mandatory. What that means is employees do not get to choose whether or not they want to participate. The only time that they can opt out of a coverage is if they have coverage with a spouse, okay? If they absolutely do not want to participate, then you have to understand what a refusal of benefits form is, why it needs to be signed, and the liability to the employer and the employee is. So you want to make sure that your employers know that these plans are usually set up 90% of the time as mandatory plans. Employees do not get to choose if they join a plan, and there are rules around it. Employers cannot pick and choose who goes on a benefit plan. If they are T4 employees and they meet the minimum requirements of eligibility, they must go on the employee data sheet for consideration. That is part of the demographic risk. We need to make sure that we know who the employees are, that everybody is included, that if they have coverage with a spouse, they still have to be on for what we call the pooled benefits. We're going to get into that more next week. You're also going to want to know some administration risk in there as well. What the guidelines are of enrolling employees, deleting employees, what it means to cohabitate, common law rules. There are things within that that underwriters look at when they're quoting on a group. The plan design risk. Is there something in there that we need to know about? So for instance, we just did a marketing proposal for a group who is kind of like a landscaping organization. And they currently, on the current plan that they have with their carrier, they're currently enrolled or have long-term disability. However, that nature of industry is not all carriers want to underwrite that type of organization. So when we sent it out to market, we got quotes back from 5 carriers. 3 quoted, 2 quoted, but without long-term disability. The rates might be lower, but it did not meet the client specification of what they're looking for. So when we're working on something, we may come back to you, or what you need to know is you may not be able to get apples for apples. You may not be able to go to a certain insurance company based on the size of the group, something that might be going on in their group, the nature of industry they happen to be in. Nonprofit organizations can tend to be an issue when we're quoting, or if you're working with a group that has, 3 or 4 divisions and maybe they're not all commonly owned, that could pose a problem. So that all falls into administration and plan design risks. So we want to make sure that you are armed and equipped with enough information that when you're working with a client that you have all of this, or that you can speak intelligently about it, increase your credibility, make sure you're covering your bases as well. The last category that we talk about is a claims risk. So often when we're working on a case, there is specific information that we are going to ask from you if you're working with us. It's not to hound you. It's not to be nitpicky. It's not to cause you any strain or confusion. It's because there are specific requirements that insurance carriers at minimum require in order to put a plan in place or to quote on a plan. So if you've ever worked with me or Candy before, and you're working on a group who currently has coverage, more often than not, we're coming back to you with the following. Current employee data. That is key. The benefits booklet that we're looking at, because we're probably going to be using that as a guide for going out to market. We might not be matching everything because you may have done a discovery where the client might be looking at something else, but we still need that current benefit booklet to evaluate. We're going to ask you for current rates, at least 2 to 3 years of current rates. The insurance companies are adamant about that. That is a non-starter. If a group currently has coverage and you have not provided the rates, we're not working on the quote. The rates are there. The rates have been set from when the group was first implemented. If they have gone up or down, that tells a story. That's telling us in our Netflix series, maybe season 3, episode 11. We're now going to market, and there's a story to be told here. Those rates tell a lot. They tell a lot if the group has increased based on their claims experience. Maybe it's coming specifically from LTD. Maybe something was going on there, and that's how the group is assessed. So rates, it's a non-starter. At least 2 or 3 years of rates. The other part is your claims experience. Anytime you're working on a group that currently has benefits, we require the last 2 or 3 years of their claims experience. That's premiums versus claims that have been paid out, and a breakdown. So as we go through in our next sessions, you're going to hear me break those down. Claims experience in health are things like hospital claims, medical services and supplies, paramedical practitioners like massage therapy, acupuncture, chiropractor, your drug coverage, and of course your vision care if there's vision care in there. Part of that experience is high cost drugs. So it is really important that if you're working on a group that currently has coverage and you find out that there is a pooled claim, that is a claim that's above a certain threshold, like a cancer drug, or maybe it's the new drug out there, Ozempic, or it's a Remicade drug. If we don't know about it, it's going to cause a problem. The last thing you ever want to do is take on a group, move them from one carrier to another, not give them proper information, and find out that the carrier is refusing to accept that case because there was something in there that wasn't properly communicated, or that the employee may have had pre-authorized care for with the current carrier, and they can't get pre-authorization with a new carrier. That does not bode well for the employee or the client experience. So we want to make sure that we have all that information. If you've worked with us before, you know that we are insistent on that information, not because we want to overburden you and not because we're being sticky. It's because we want to make sure that your credibility is intact, that our credibility is intact, and that the insurance carriers get all of the right information when they're quoting on a group. We're going to get more into that in the next few sessions, but that is what we're talking about when we're talking about underwriting risks. That is our presentation for today. The next 3 that are coming, one is on November 13th. That's the request to quote process and group underwriting. On November 20th, we're going to go from the group underwriting. So you've been working with us. We've put a quote through. You've done a discovery. We've taken all of that information. We've sent it off to the insurance companies. The insurance companies are all excited. They start giving us quotes back. We populate it into a presentation for you. And now you need to understand the work that we've done. So it's understanding the marketing proposal, how to navigate through that marketing proposal, tips and tricks about guiding employees into certain aspects of their making a decision, which carrier they're going to go through, because we're going to go back to the discovery that you did and highlight some of those areas. And then once a client has made a decision, what the implementation process is. So that's on November 20th. And then to end off the month on November 27th, we're going to be talking about communication and employee engagement. Because as an advisor, your job does not stop once a policy number is issued. There are ongoing processes that need to be taken into consideration when you're working with a client. And that's important. So you want to make sure that you're in front of them, that you're not just reaching out to them at the renewal, that you know how to service them, and we're going to help you every step of the way. On the right-hand side of my screen, maybe the left-hand side for you, is my contact information, as well as Candy's contact information. We're your business development executives. I handle the East Coast, so from Ontario and East, and Candy does the West Coast. So we're here to help you, depending on the province that you're in. If you want to set up a one-on-one with either of us, we're happy to do that. We encourage it. We love to do those with advisors. So if you have a particular case or you want to learn about our business models, again, we're very happy to engage with you on those. With that, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second, go into my screen here. So it says one of our advisors asked, if English is not the first language of most of your staff, do you or the carriers provide translation of information? Well, it would depend on what it is or who it is. So French does not seem to be an issue to do. We can work within that. The carriers can help with that as well. Some of those are better at it than others. Any other ones is not an area of our expertise. But I would say we would put a presentation together, and if you speak that language, then you might want to go in there and go in and communicate that. So French we can do. So can the carriers. Anything more than that might be a little tricky, but that would be up to you as the advisor. I hope that was helpful. We've also, so my trusty friend Lisa, who some of you might know, is backstage, and she's put in the chat the link to get help and support. So you're welcome to download that or get any of that as well. With that, if there aren't any other questions, I look forward to seeing you next Monday. And again, you're welcome to reach out to us. We're happy to do one-on-ones if you need it. So please do reach out. And with that, I'm going to let you all get back to your day. And happy Monday to everybody. And I'll see you next week at the same time.